Well, speaking of what happened in Europe, could you see the governments in Canada and the U.S. approving another buy-in to banks to bail them out instead of using taxpayer money? They just rob you of your own bank account?
They'll rob you any way they can do it. Any scam that they could come up with, they'll do it. Whether they're the bail-ins, whether they're the bailouts, whether they're taxing you for every little thing that you do, whether they add a value-added tax, whether they increase your income tax, whether they tax you for sleeping too long or not sleeping long enough, they're going to do something to steal your money. They have a real great track record of doing it. When you're driving in your car, the police stop you for every minor infraction. They'll rob you 6 ways till Sunday.
And, of course, whenever they put up fees, too, for using a park or whatever, that's another tax, isn't it?
Exactly. It's they shaft the people any way they can. And that's what they're going to keep doing. Because that's all, the only people the politicians represent are the multinationals and the people that feed them money to run their campaigns and to keep them into power. They could care less about us. I mean, people better grow up about this myth called democracy. It doesn't exist in North America. What do you have? You have two parties to choose from, basically. How about calling them the Bloods and the Crips? I'm serious. They're murderers and they're thieves. They start wars and kill people, and innocent people in foreign countries, and they steal your money in the names of too big to fail and every other way. They're murderers and thieves. Why can't people call a spade, a crook, and a thief, and call them politicians?
In Canada, a lot of people are upset that the Canadian Armed Forces, who used to be known as the world's best peacekeepers because they won't back down from anyone, all of a sudden now we've become aggressors by taking part in the war in Afghanistan, and now the Canadian flag doesn't stand for, hi, we're here to make sure you guys don't kill each other anymore. It's disappointing for us.
It should be. And this is all part of multinationalization and globalization. It's as simple as that. There's no myth of a one world government that's happening. The one world government's maybe four, major governments in controlling different parts of the planet. So whether you have, the Russia-China cooperation or NATO, U.S. and Canada, and then Southeast Asia, whatever it might be, or the BRICS, whatever it is, it's a conglomeration of countries, and they take their people to war for any reason that they can make up. And what they do, it's the same story over and over. They set the narrative, and they form the conversation. So, for example, when that Malaysian airline was shot down over Russia, or did it blow up in the sky? So here's my take. When I first heard it, Jim, Malaysian airplane, crashed over the Ukraine. Man, I said, another Malaysian airliner. What's going on with this company? CNN had that story about they can't find a plane as a headline story for 7 weeks. We documented it. We put it in the Trends Journal. I said, what's going on with that airline? But that's not what you heard. The first word you heard was, Russian separatists shot the airliner out of the sky with the help of the Russian government. Within minutes. I remember when this Flight 800 blew up leaving Kennedy Airport here in New York. People said they saw missiles going at it. Right away, the government officials came out. Let's not rush to judgment. We're going to put together a committee, and we're going to look into this. We're bringing in the greatest experts to piece this together. And it went on for months and months and months. But no, instantly, they told you they set the narrative. So now, whether or not we ever find out who did what about what, it doesn't make any difference. It's embedded in the people's minds. Let's hate the Russians and those Eastern Ukrainians. And then you see the same thing going on with the slaughter going on in Gaza. The story keeps changing. Oh, it was 3 kidnapped Israeli kids in occupied territory, teenagers. And Netanyahu came out and said, Hamas did it, and they're gonna pay for it. Huh. And then we just heard from an Israeli police chief over there saying that, no, it wasn't Hamas, it was a lone cell. Hamas had nothing to do with it. Well, that doesn't make any difference. Bombs away. Oh, and then the tunnels. Well, the tunnels were. This is the second story. Terror tunnels. Let's call them terror tunnels. Listen, it's an occupied area. It's 7 miles wide by 25 miles long. And there's 1.8 million people jammed into it. No, they're not using them as human shields. The Israeli military is bombing the hell out of them, and they're turning buildings into rubble. And if there are tunnels, when was the last time a tunnel strike went into Tel Aviv? And what they're using the tunnels for are bomb shelters, escape routes, because the whole area is sealed in. It's a prison. It's a Warsaw ghetto. You can't get out by land, you can't get out by air, and you can't get out by sea. Of course there are tunnels. But let's do the terror tunnel narrative so people could really have a simple way for us to destroy a lot of innocent people. As we speak, over 140 killed. And then when the UN building blew up, again, the narrative was laid down. The Israeli military, we didn't do it. We don't know what happened. It was Hamas. They were using the people as a human shield, and they blew it up. And then 4 days later, the story changes. Yeah, Israel blew it up, but we'll forget about it now because we set the narrative. And they do that with every issue, whether it's right, whoever your enemy is, by the way, they're militants. That's the other thing. Well, everybody in Palestine that fights back is a Palestinian militant.
Well, as the old saying goes, one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist.
Yeah. And by the way, Israel is in violation of the Geneva Conventions. They're in violation of UN resolutions. No, according to the Geneva Conventions, no occupying nation is supposed to go in and put its people in there and steal their land.